morning, everybody. We're in Joshua chapter 3. And before I get the usual "Bear, you look tired" comments, it's 5 o'clock in the morning on the Sabbath. I am tired. But I assure you, I will be as restful as possible today. So, we've just had the story of Rahab, the whore, who essentially sheltered these two spies sent forth by Joshua into the promised land. And for that, she acknowledges that Elohim, Yahweh, or Elohim, is the one true God. And she says, "Please spare my family." They make a little deal. Everything's good to go. You can watch the Joshua 1 and 2 video from last week. But the following day, the next morning, is where we pick up the story in Joshua chapter 3. And Joshua, Yehoshua, rose early in the morning, and they, children of Israel, set out from Shittim and came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel. And they stayed there before they passed over, before they crossed the river. And it came to be after 3 days, so 3 days later, the officers went into the midst of the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, "When you see the ark of Yahweh your Elohim, when you see the ark of the covenant of Yahweh your Elohim, and the priests and the Levites bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. So, only keep a distance between you and it, about 2,000 cubits, about half a mile, 3,000 foot roughly, 1,000 meters-ish. About 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, so that you know which way to go, for you have not passed over this way before." So they said, you're going to see the Ark of the Covenant come through the camp. When you do, let it come through the camp, stay about a half mile behind it, so you can see it, but follow it, because you guys don't know the direction to go. So the priests, the Levites, are going to carry this thing on their shoulder out of the camp. When they do, y'all go. Now remember, we've already covered, I believe it's in Exodus, it may have been in Numbers though, what tribe goes when, how they go, the way the tribes were laid out. In fact, in the back of the scriptures, many people ask, "Bear, why do you use that Bible?" And I've got an entire video on it, but one of the things that I like is that there's illustrations in the back, including this one, which show where the tabernacle was, right there in the center, with the Ark of the Covenant, and then which tribes camped where. This is very cool. It's a good visual aid. So, the Ark of the Covenant is going to leave camp. When it leaves camp, you follow behind, 3,000 cubits behind, half a mile behind, roughly. It's a little bit more than a mile. A mile is 5,280 feet. So, half of that would be, what, 2,640 feet? Well, this is 3,000 feet. So, ish. And Joshua said to the people, "Set yourselves apart for tomorrow, for Yahweh is doing wonders in your midst. Keep yourself clean, because we're going to have a visit from the Lord our God, Yahweh, our Elohim. Dad's coming. Make sure your room's clean." That kind of thing. And Joshua, Yehoshua, spoke to the priests, saying, "Take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass it before the people." So they took up the Ark of the Covenant and went before the people. And Yahweh said to Yehoshua to Joshua, "This day I begin to make you great before the eyes of all Israel, so that they know that I am with you as I was with Moshe. And you command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when you come to the edge of the water of the Jordan, stand in the Jordan. And Joshua said to the children of Israel, come near and hear the words of Yahweh, our Elohim. And Joshua said, by this you shall know that the living Elohim is in your midst, and that he is certainly driving out from before you the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Hivites and the Perizzites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Jebusites. Yah, by this you will know that Yah is real, and he is driving out everybody who stands in your way. See, the ark of the covenant of the master of all earth is passing over before you into the Jordan. And now take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, 1 man from every tribe. And it shall be, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of Yahweh, the master of all earth, come to rest in the waters of the Jordan, that the waters of the Jordan are cut off, the waters that come down from upstream and stand up as a heap. And it came to be, when the people set out from their tents to pass over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as those bearing the ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests bearing the ark dipped into the edge of the water, now the Jordan overflows all its banks during all the time of harvest, that the waters which came down from upstream stood still, and rose in a heap, very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Tissarathan. And the waters going down into the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, were completely cut off. And the people passed opposite Jericho. And the priests bearing the ark of the covenant of Yahweh stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan. And all Israel passed over on dry ground, until all the nation had completely passed over the Jordan. So Father Yah is giving Joshua, has made the same deal with Joshua as he made with Moshe. They will know, the children of Israel will know that you are my guy. If you do my things, you will be my guy. Joshua accepts. He's been groomed for this his whole life. He had Moses as a mentor, Moshe. The children of Israel have essentially said, or at least Gad and half of Manasseh and Reuben have said, hey, if you have the same horsepower that Moshe had, we're in. You make the same deal with us, you do the same deal, do the same things that he said he would do and did, we're good to go, bro. And so this is a sign to Israel that Yahweh, yet again, is real. That as soon as the priests step into the river stops flowing. And it just, instead of flowing gentle like this, it flows and then heaps up. And then there's dry land here, and they walk across the dry land. And it's not like there were a handful of them. There are 603,550 military-aged males, plus their women and children and old people and flocks and herds and stuff. It's estimated anywhere between 3 and 5 million people and millions, possibly tens of millions of animals. It was a freaking procession. It was not, you know, the water didn't stop flowing for a few minutes. It flowed for, or it stopped flowing for a significant amount of time. This is also for Joshua. When we see Moses in Exodus, you know, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Over and over again. Starting with flies. Hey man, if you don't listen to my Yahweh, there's gonna be some flies. And Pharaoh's like, whatever. And ending with, if you don't listen to Yahweh, my Elohim, every firstborn in your land will be killed, including your son, and including all the sons of all the households that you're responsible for, and all of your livestock, everybody. And you will weep and you will wail, and you will gnash your teeth, and the rivers will run red with the blood of the firstborn that the destroyer slaughters on behalf of Yahweh or Elohim. You don't just get there. You don't just show up and threaten the most powerful man in the world with the death of not only his son, but the firstborn of all in his kingdom on the first day. That is why I believe, because see, and this is why I believe it, it says repeatedly that Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He was not going to change his mind. I believe that that entire iteration of Moses and Pharaoh was for the children of Israel as a testimony, but especially for Moses to understand that Yah was with him and to learn to wield the power and authority that he was imbued with from Yah. You don't just walk up to the most powerful man in the world and say, tomorrow your son dies if you don't give me what you want. You gotta believe it. And you have to believe it because you have seen and experienced myriad provision and blessing already. You know that Yah is real and you mean business. And so now here with Joshua, we see a sign, a wonder, a miracle, that the river Jordan stops flowing and the water heaps up into heaps as close 5 million people and 10 million animals pass over. And they know, yet again, they are reminded that Yahweh is real. But so does Joshua. Now, he's experienced the miracles of Yah under the leadership of Moshe. But now he's experiencing the miracles of Yah under the leadership of himself. And so this is a good first fist bump with Yah. It's like, yeah, I told you I'd be there for you, and I am. Very cool. So, I don't know everything there is to know about leadership, but I do know a thing or two, and I've been blessed to lead people my whole life. And so I'm perhaps more aware about the relationship between the Father and his intermediary and then his people than perhaps others might be. Because this guy up here, who's the worldly leader on behalf of the Father, that guy has a hell of a hard job. And so it's really important, whether that's Moses or Joshua or Yeshua HaMashiach, the mediator of the renewed covenant. It's really important that that person understands, yeah, I'm fully vested with power and authority, because they have a really difficult job. So they cross over on dry land. Chapter 4. And it came to be, when the entire nation had completely passed over the Jordan, that Yahweh spoke to Joshua, saying, take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man for every tribe, and command them. Oh, and you know, we see earlier here these 12 guys, right? Take for your 12 guys and follow the priests. I think those 12 guys were to be witnesses, 1 man from each tribe, so they could say, I was there the moment the water stopped flowing, the moment those priests walked into that water. Because remember, everybody else is following 3,000 foot behind, 2,000 cubits. Cubits about 1.5 feet, about 18 inches. Ish. Standard cubit or Egyptian cubit? Oh, there's a difference? Apparently, yes. I'm not. And a cubit was measured as the distance from this part of your arm to this part of your arm. Well, my toddler's cubit is different than my cubit, which is different than my wife's cubit, which is different than my neighbor's cubit. So, anyway, I think those original 12 guys, it says take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, 1 man from every tribe. I think those 12 guys were witnesses, and they walked near enough to the priests that they could see, but far enough away from the priests that they didn't die from being in the presence of the covenant without being wholly sanctified in service unto Yahweh. So, I think they were there to see the moment the water stopped flowing, when those priests walked into the water as witnesses. Because you know, there's no way you're not going to go back and talk about that. Holy crap, Gad tribe. You wouldn't believe I was there when those priests walked in. That water just stopped. It was sick, bro, right? Now, Joshua says in verse 2 of chapter 4, take for yourselves 12 men. These are another 12 men, okay? This is after they've crossed over on dry land. Take for yourself 12 men from the people, 1 man from every tribe, and command them, saying, take for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firm, and you shall bring them with you, and leave them in the camp in which you spend the night. So it said, take 12 guys, 1 from each tribe, grab 12 stones out of that dry river, and bring them with you. And Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, 1 man for every tribe. And Joshua said to them, pass over before the ark of Yahweh your Elohim into the midst of the Jordan, and each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, so that this shall be a sign in your midst, when your children ask in time to come, saying, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them, that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. And these stones shall be for a remembrance to the children of Israel forever. And the children of Israel did so, as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, as Yahweh had spoken to Joshua, according to the number of tribes of the children of Israel, and took them over with them to their camp and laid them down there. So, they have these witness stones per se. It's 12, and I don't know if they were this big or this big. I don't know. So, they walk into the Jordan, they pick up these stones. Let's say they're basketball-sized stones, which is a heavy stone, by the way. Pick it up, they pull it out, and they're gonna bring it with them. And when they make camp, they're gonna set this stone in the middle of the camp. And when people are like, why are you carrying that stone around? It'll be a teachable moment. Bro, let me tell you, that stone right there, that stone came out of the River Jordan, which was dry when we walked on dry land. What? Yeah, because Yahweh is awesome. Teachable moments. Very cool. Physical reminder of the provision and blessing of Yah. Very cool. Raise your children up in the way that they should go, and they shall not depart from it when they are older. And in Deuteronomy 6, verse 5. By the way, I hope you have your Bibles out. I give you no permission to subcontract your faith to me. None. You can read your Bible with me. I would love it if you would. But I'm not your pastor. I'm Brother Bear. Okay? Okay. Deuteronomy 6, verse 5. We'll start at verse 4 because it's, well, we'll just start at 6:1. And this is the command, the laws and the right rulings, this is Moses speaking, which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded to teach you to do in the land which you are passing over to possess. They just passed over. So that you fear Yahweh your Elohim, to guard all his laws and his commands, which I am commanding you today, you and your son and your grandson, your children, all the days of your life, and that your days are prolonged. And you shall hear, O Israel, and shall guard to do, that it might be well with you, and that you increase greatly, as Yahweh your Elohim, the Elohim of your fathers, has spoken to you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. These stones Joshua takes are a remembrance for your sons and your grandsons, so that you remember to do. Why? Because Yahweh is awesome, and he goes to battle for us, and he shows up, and he's real, and his provision and blessing is real. Verse 4, Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim, Yahweh is one. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. One. There is one God, the Lord your Yahweh, your Elohim. And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. This is straight up in the Gospel of Matthew, I believe it is, when Matthew 22:37, Rabbi, Rabbi, Yeshua, Yeshua, Jesus. What is the most important command in all the Torah? You shall love the Lord your God, Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, with everything you've got. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On this hangs all the Torah and the prophets. Love your neighbor as yourself is Leviticus 19, verse 18. It would have to be the Old Testament, because they just asked him, what's the most important command in the Torah? Well, the Torah's OT, bro. Old Testament. So in the King James, when it says, and I give you a new command, it's not new. It's from Leviticus 19, verse 18. And that's just one example of why I don't care for the King James translation. And I have 13 different versions, including the King James. So, I'm digressing here. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. That's what's happening with these stones. Joshua knows, Joshua is remembering, he is guarding to do, diligently obeying the commands of Yah. Yeah, grab those stones. Teachable moment, so that when people see these stones, like, where did that thing come from? The River Jordan. How did you get it out? We picked it up. How? Well, we stood on dry ground as we crossed over into the promised land, because everything that was promised to us by Yah was true and was fulfilled. That's where that stone came from. Wow, Yah is totally badass. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And he goes beast mode for his kids when they obey his voice. Okay. Joshua 4, verse 8. And the children of Israel did so, as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, as Yahweh had spoken to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and took them over with them to their camp and laid them down there. Joshua also set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant stood, and they are there to this day. And the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until every matter was finished that Yahweh had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moshe had commanded Joshua. And the people hastened and passed over. And it came to be, when all the people had completely passed over, that the ark of Yahweh and the priests passed over in the presence of the people. And the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh passed over in fives. 5 wide, I think. 5 wide. Like this, like a column. You know, marching. Passed over in fives, as Moshe had spoken them. About 40,000 armed ones of the army passed over. This is Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. Passed over before Yahweh for battle to the desert plains of Jericho. On that day, Yahweh made Joshua great before the eyes of all Israel, and they feared him as they had feared Moshe all the days of his life. See, the children of Israel had to see that mediator between them and Yah. And they had to see the power and authority of Yah vested in Joshua so that they would fear him, so that they would do what he commanded them, not the worldly commands of Joshua, the heavenly commands of Yah. Joshua is just the mouthpiece. He's just the messenger. He's the mediator at this point of the covenant, literally the covenant between the Father and his people. You know, the name Joshua means salvation. It is the same name as Yeshua or Yahusha, which is Jesus the Christ, who is the mediator of the renewed covenant between the Father and his people. That's Hebrews 8:6 through 8:12. You can even go as far as Hebrews 8:6 through 8:13, which makes it clear that the first covenant between the Father and his people is growing old, perhaps going away. That this new covenant under Yeshua is now the thing. Well, that new covenant under Yeshua requires that you acknowledge that Yeshua is the mediator. He is the Messiah, the Redeemer of the Father's kingdom, and that the Father's laws be in your mind and written on your heart. Then he will be your Elohim, and you will be his people, Israel. There's no coincidences here. Jesus the Christ, no man ever existed that was named that. Now there's power in that name. You can cast out demons in that name, I've done it. But no man ever lived that was named Jesus. That's an Englishization of the Romanization, Jesus, of Yeshua or Joshua or Yahusha of Nazareth, who was the anointed of the Most High Yahweh, who was the Messiah, who is the Messiah, who was and is to come. And his name literally means salvation, he who saves. What does he save? The children of Israel. What is the children of Israel? Israel means he who is overcome with Elohim, the Father's chosen people. There's no coincidence here. So the children of Israel are to fear the intermediary, the mediator of the covenant between the Father and his people, and to do what the Father says through the mediator. This is why Yeshua says in Matthew 5:17, I come not to destroy the Torah or the prophets, but to complete it. To show you guys how to do this. What a cruel joke it would be if the Father gave you a life but didn't show you how to live it. Cue Yeshua. And Yahweh spoke to Joshua, saying, command the priests who bear the ark of the witness, and let them come up from the Jordan. And Joshua commanded the priests, saying, "Come up from the Jordan." And it came to be, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant had come from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and flowed all over the banks as before. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first new moon, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. And he said to the children of Israel, "When your children ask their fathers in the time to come, saying, 'What are these stones?' then you shall let your children know, saying, 'Israel passed over the Jordan on dry land.' For Yahweh your Elohim dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had passed over, as Yahweh your Elohim did to the Sea of Reeds, when he dried it up before us until we had passed over. So that all the peoples of the earth shall know the hand of Yahweh that is strong, so that you shall fear Yahweh your Elohim forever." Forever. So that you'll teach your kids, fear Yahweh. You know, I asked recently, somebody asked me, they said, "Hey, isn't this all done away with?" Let me ask you something. Is this Bible true? Is this Bible true? Do you believe in the biblical truth of this Bible? Are you a biblical literalist, like so many of us are constitutional literalists? What does it say, man? Shall not be infringed. Right? What does your Bible say? I'll give you just one example. Leviticus 23, which is the appointed times, the Moedim, the feasts. Verse 14, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. How long is forever? Honest question. How long is forever? To me, it means forever. A law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Forever. Wherever your people are. Always. That's pretty clear. That's the feasts in Leviticus 23. Leviticus 11 in the diet. Verse 44, for I am Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart. You shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And do not defile yourselves with any swarming creature, talking about what you eat, the ones creeping in the earth. For I am Yahweh, who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim, to be your Elohim, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. Okay. Yes, sir, to the best of my broken ability. You got it. How about Exodus 12? The Feast of the Passover. Exodus 12, verse 14. And this day shall become to you a remembrance, and you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh throughout your generations. Celebrate it as a festival, an everlasting law. Okay, now that's Old Testament stuff. Understood. Flip to Revelation 12. Revelation 12. That's the New Testament, the end of the book. Revelation 12, verse 17. And the dragon was enraged in the woman, which is understood to be the followers of Yahweh. And he, the dragon, went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing a witness of Yeshua Messiah. How about Revelation? We're right here, next page over, 14, verse 12. Here is the endurance of the set-apart ones, that you were just commanded to be set apart forever, a law forever, throughout your generations, in all your dwellings. Because that was literally in the second book of the Bible, and now 64 books later, at the last book of the Bible, towards the end of that book, we have in Revelation 14, verse 12, here is the endurance of the set-apart ones. Remember, you were just commanded to be set apart. Here are those guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief of Yeshua. It's not either or, it's both. And it's not the doctrines of Judaism plus the doctrines of Christianity, because those are the doctrines of men. It's not that. It's the entirety of these scriptures. It's the whole testimony. It is the completeness that Yeshua talks about in Matthew 5:17, that he did not come to destroy it, but to complete it. To be salvation, to save the world from what? From sin. What is sin? 1 John 3:4, it's lawlessness. To bring the world to the guarding of the commands. To lead, just like Joshua, because they had the same name, to lead the Father's people into the promised land. What a coincidence. Shalom, y'all.